One chapter does not define a person's whole story. Welcome to our Journey of Recovery series, where we talk with Montanans who have lived experience of trauma, substance use, and struggles with mental health about where they are now. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, defines recovery as a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. Join us to learn about community members in recovery as they share their story and the steps they are taking to help others on their journey. So thank you so much for doing this for us. We really appreciate doing these interviews, and I'm excited to be here. So do you mind starting just by introducing yourself?
Um, yeah, I mean, that always feels like an awkward proposition to me. My name is Bryan, but how do I like quickly describe who I am? I live in Missoula. I work at Best Buy in the Geek Squad repairing computers. Um, I live at home with my wife, which is a big thing because for so long I didn't, um, we'll get into that a little bit later, I guess. But um, got a new motorcycle last year. I love riding that around.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, super. I can't believe I got be what 48 without ever riding a motorcycle. And I bought one last year, and when I went out on my first ride, I was like, I can't believe I didn't do this my whole life.
Well, I've still never done that. So yeah, I guess one for the bucket list, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
um yeah, so what kind of topics do you enjoy discussing if when you meet new people?
I don't usually go into meeting new people with like a list of things to talk about. That's something I've never been, I guess, good at is like scripts in that way. Um, I went through a period of life where I lived by scripts, and now I've like tried to like dismantle that part of my life. So I go in and just try to interact and see what comes up and ask them questions. And I'm always super interested to meet new people and get past the small talk. I don't engage in small talk, and I just try to, as quickly as I can, just get into the real gritty, you know, of who are you and what do we have in common and how can we have like an authentic, deeper interaction than some small talk.
Yeah, so no weather, what's up with the weather for you kind of talk?
Not usually, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes it starts with that, yeah, yeah. What's up with the weather? Or hey, things are crazy right now, or hey, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Just wherever based off of where I am, but it's super like context dependent, like where I am, you know. It's the conversations I get into with clients at work who are coming in with their computer, and we just start off with talking about what's going on with the computer and then quickly get into talking about their last trip to Germany or Ireland or, all the dogs that they raise or whatever. Cause I just, yeah, try to get past just that instant what's in front of me.
yeah. And I'm sure with being in the Geek Squad, if you see people who are having trouble with their computer, you hear a lot of stories about I don't want to lose these documents or I don't want to lose these pictures or so I
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure it can go deep quick or get right to what they were really hoping to retrieve if they're having issues. I know
Yeah.
I've done that before.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody has, right? I mean,
Yeah.
technology fails us in so many ways. They're powerful tools, but they can be, misused or fail at the wrong time. And the most heartbreaking story I had was I had a client one time who she had pictures of her dead husband on her computer, but she kept using the computer after getting warnings that the drive was failing. And so when it finally wouldn't turn on anymore, she came into us wanting us to fix it. And I'm like, there's there's no fixing this. I am so sorry. And I sat with her and tried to offer my condolences that I could. Well, she cried a little bit, but
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
was,
I've
yeah,
had
it's heartbreaking.
I have a phone that stopped working, had all the pictures of my only child, as a baby. Good
Oh,
fortunately for me, I was able to I had it backed up and I didn't even know. So,
yeah.
thank goodness my sister was a tech, for the cell phone company we used, and she had set that up for me, but yeah, I can't imagine just losing it all. It's like but it sounds like you like the more authentic connection, than just yeah, just like what's going on the surface.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And part of that's just, my neurodivergence, but
Yeah,
part of it too is just after the things that I've gone through in my life, after living a certain period of your life, just completely superficial, and then pretending to be somebody for everybody else. I have no desire to be that way anymore. I went a little too far the other way, I'm sure. It makes some people uncomfortable a little bit sometimes, but not generally. Most people are willing to be their authentic selves if they trust that you're being your authentic self. They don't want to be tricked into giving away their secrets if you're not putting anything on the line. But uh,
Yeah, your honesty gives them permission, kind of thing. Like they can be honest too. I'm like, as a fellow neurodivergent, I 100% understand that. Like, just cut through it all.
yeah,
What would you say your long-term goals are?
my lot.
Or short, long-term goals? It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be like you don't need to have a 2-year plan. Like,
Well, yeah, thanks for qualifying that a little bit. Right now we're looking at buying a house.
oh,
We
awesome.
made an offer on a house a few weeks ago, and it didn't work out because we felt like they were asking way more than the house is worth, and we were willing to put some work into it. So we were willing to get into it at a certain price point. But it was cool. That was the first time I've ever put in an offer on a house, and hopefully, sometime in the next 3 to 9 months, we'll buy one and move in and have our own place.
I hope you get a chance to get that house. That's awesome. That's a great thing to do.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
yeah. What are other do you have any other certain topics you enjoy discussing? Like, is there I get you said you work for the Geek Squad, like, do you like tech? Do you like to, like, talk about tech or something else?
What I do, yeah. Yeah, we talk about that a lot. I work with a lot of my coworkers. A lot of my coworkers a little bit younger, but I mean, we all talk about Minecraft. Everybody loves Minecraft, so I can get a little lost in that game sometimes. But talk about that, or sometimes other new games that are coming out. They all play D&D, and I haven't played that for a long time, so I don't have a whole lot to talk about as far as that goes. But that, or new apps, or how the computers work. I mean, it's yeah, a lot about tech. But I've also worked in construction recently too, so we'll talk about that. And I always cook and bring leftovers, and so I talk to them about food that I eat, and I always try to get people to try it. "Hey, we just made this. You wanna try this?" Give them a bite. Yeah.
I'm like, you'd be my favorite coworker. I love that. I worked in a lot of places where there was a kitchen right by, and I you always make friends with the chef. You always,
Oh,
always
yeah.
make friends with the chef.
That's smart, right?
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I was like, there's a lot of going on with AI and tech and I mean all of that stuff right now too. So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Do you have any like recent accomplishments you want to share, anything like that, other than trying to buy a house? I mean, that's awesome. Like, just
Yeah.
getting through that process.
It's a big thing. It's a little stressful. We're trying to pay off debt at the same time, so we started
Yeah.
looking earlier than we can actually afford to move in, but it's good to get out there, see what's on the market, and start moving in that direction. I have been involved with a group. We meet in Helena about once a month at the Department of Corrections and talk about issues related to correctional policy and about how they deal with offenders. We are getting ready to go into Deer Lodge this weekend to teach two seminars about wellness recovery action plans. So we're gonna bring that to the guys, and
Oh, that sounds really cool. Yeah.
yeah, hopefully give some guys some just common sense tools that will allow them to figure out who they want to be, who they are as their best selves, and then just work towards that and not put like big expectations about understanding this or that, but just common sense approach.
Yeah. I always say to my daughter, small steps, just keep moving forward. So just
Yeah.
as long as we can keep doing it. That's how we get to school in the morning. Like that's
Yeah.
everything. Uh,
Yeah.
is that program just for people in the correctional system or is it going to be more widely done?
So what we're doing, the initiative we're working on is just for the guys who are inside. Hopefully, we'd like to set up some peer mentoring so as they go to transition to the outside, that they'll have some more support. But RAP itself is a larger program that deals with people in recovery um, throughout the country and in a couple of different places in a couple of different countries. I'm not sure where it is internationally, but I know it's been around. It's a national organization, the Advocates for Human Potential. They publish the documents and do the trainings and certify people. And
You know what RAP stands for? I wasn't sure.
yeah, wellness recovery action plan.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. That's just like you were saying to go there and just kind of give them those tools.
Yeah.
Um, did you have any tools that you learned about or the ones that were most useful for you that you're going to share?
The crazy thing is that I didn't know anything about rap back in the day, but a lot of what it does um, translates into, and I think aligns with a lot of people's experience because it is such a common sense based approach. But it goes beyond that too, to Um, a couple of the tenets are to treat people with unconditional high regard, and so when you treat people as if you value them, and when you
Yeah.
show that you actually do value them, then they tend to want to live up to that. They tend to want to um, be worthy of that, and they treat you in the same way. And so that kind of approach is different than you can see in a lot of different places in the world. And so I think it's valuable in and of itself. For me, my wellness and um, my journey was really just made possible and bolstered at so many points just by the relationships that I made with the people that I was around. And just being able to like literally talk about whatever it was that was going on in our life, and what we were struggling with, and how things from our past drove us, and to just be able to talk in a safe space with people that cared about you, that didn't judge you, that allowed me to recover myself in a way that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. And so to have that, and to treat people like they're the expert on themselves, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't need to have somebody explain to you the finer details of these, f- philosophical or psychological theories in order to get a better understanding of yourself. If you just have a common sense approach, have conversations with people that care about you, that have a little bit of insight, you value their insight, you can talk freely about what you're going through. I don't know that you really need a whole heck of a lot more.
Yeah, just the experience of living and, like, going through life, just knowing yourself too. Yeah, I get that. That sounds like a powerful tool for people to accept themselves, is to have someone else also mirror that too, that you're being accepted in a safe space, like you said. Were
Yeah, it's a
there
huge
Oh,
thing.
yeah. I was gonna say, were there's any influential people who, kinda brought that to you? Did you have some mentors?
I did, yeah, but we were mentoring each other because we were just
Okay.
trying to figure it all out. So my story, is that I committed a violent crime in 1998, and I went to prison for almost 20 years. And so my wellness and my recovery was in an institutional setting. Um, and so being around other people who had similar experiences to mine. We were all just trying to figure out how to not be the same people that we had been in the past. And it's crazy to say that, but because most of the people that I know weren't unhinged. They went through some shit and had bad responses to that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so the judgment that you get when you talk about those kind of things, or the things that you see people's reactions, because they don't have a context. Most people don't have a context for understanding that, or for being able to respond with anything other than fear to that kind of a discussion. We all went through groups at different times, different kind of group therapies, and talked about those kinds of things. I had a lot of different programs over the years that they with Bryan to try to fix people who are broken. And some of that is valuable, absolutely. Some of the insight that can be gained from those kinds of programs was invaluable, definitely. But just honestly being around people who have that same kind of an approach, that just wanted to be better. That was it. They just wanted to be better people.
Yeah.
Um, and were willing to work and talk about whatever they were going through in their struggle to move in that direction. And you always have the end goal in mind, like, hey, I want to get out of prison and stay out, which is part of it. But that drive too, to just not be the person that I was,
Mhm.
is huge.
Yeah, I'm sure, like you were saying, like, circumstances play a huge role in a lot of choices that people make. It doesn't always mean that somebody coming at you doesn't have that experience, so they don't know what choice they would have made, in
Right.
any situation. And, yeah, and it sounds like there's a lot of self-awareness going on too. I mean, if you're talking to each other about it, just peer to peer, um, working through it, that takes a lot of self-awareness. And I know that's something that can be a little more rare nowadays.
It can be, yeah. But ironically, I've always found more of that with people who have been through something in life, who have been through addiction and are working on their recovery, who have made mistakes, been incarcerated, and are trying to grow as people. And so that kind of self awareness, that kind of um, just trying to be a better person, trying to make choices that matter for the right reasons, that kind of intentionality, it requires having suffered through something in order to like really keep that a slow burn for a lifetime, I think.
Yeah, you saying that intentionality, that sounds like being involved in rap, is a huge part of your, like, recovery as well, just wanting to do that give back,
Yeah.
to help other people.
Yeah. Yeah. We started, rap is a recent thing, but we started like a year and a half ago. We decided that we were going to go into the facilities and just talk to people who were there just to try to inspire a sense of hope, just share them, the hope that got a lot of us through. And so there was a
Yeah,
group of about 20 people that got together, and we decided that that would be a good thing. And so we've gone in with groups of anywhere from two to, a little more than a dozen into, well, the men's facility in Deer Lodge. We went up to Shelby, went up the juvenile facility in Pine Hills and in Miles City, to the women's prison in Billings,
wow.
and just into those places and just try to talk to people about what works for us, and why we were able to be successful and stay clean and sober on the streets, stay, crime free on the streets, whatever the issues were, or just even to heal from whatever traumas that we had been through in our lives. And so it's really pretty cool to see some of the impact that can be made that way. One of my favorite places to go is Pine Hills, because there's a lot of young men there that
Yeah,
are struggling to just to grow up. How do when you're 12 to 18, yeah, that's a fraught time period no matter what. But you take into
yeah,
that whatever trauma they've been through, whatever bad decisions they have made, and how that affected them and how they responded to that. And um, yeah, one of one of the guys in our group, he he likes to take them fishing. He goes down there, and the management there lets them take a couple of them out fishing. And they just go out fish and talk about stuff the guys talk about when they're doing that. And for
yeah,
yeah, for some young men who grew up with, maybe with or without fathers, but definitely not necessarily with a good male role model, to be able to just kind of have that experience is pretty cool. He loves it.
that sounds awesome. That sounds like a great initiative. I mean, going in all those places and just sharing your story, like, "This worked for me." I know a lot of people say, like, not everything works the same for everybody, so you've gotta
Yeah.
find your own kind of path, but knowing what's worked for other people, really helps other people figure out what they can do for themselves too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it puts it in a context and just lets you even know that it's possible, right? Like, you don't know it's
Yeah.
possible unless you see other people succeed. And I know that when you're sitting in an institution and, you see so many people coming back and so many people not getting an opportunity to get out, then it can be pretty hopeless. But to
Yeah.
just have that kind of message, hopefully will make a difference for some people. And it has. Some of the comments that we get are pretty cool.
Well, that's awesome. So when people learn about your lived experience, is there anything that you kind of notice or reactions that you notice that you get?
I know, yeah, there's a few different kinds. I guess you can break it down into categories. One is like, no way, you don't look like you would ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I appreciate that, but you can't always judge by what you see right in front of you, right? And the other one is you can see a lot of times there's a look of, oh my God, who am I talking to? Who is this in front of me? What's gonna happen? Are they gonna freak out on me? Are they gonna act weird, or are they like
Yeah.
the ones that I saw on 90 Days In, or I forget what all the other prison shows are. I never watched any of them, but uh, you know.
All I could think of was Scared Straight when you were talking about the kids, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, but
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I grew up in Washington State, and we had some people come from, that had been to the jails out there, and they came to our high school when I was a teenager. And we were supposed to all hang out in the cafeteria and listen to them. I did for a little bit, and then, me and my friends took off, and because it doesn't hit that way,
Right.
because to me, it just lacks there's no real connection, you know what I mean? It's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you need to act right or you're gonna," yeah, and that's I don't know. I don't think that's a good way to reach people.
Yeah, I can see that, like, there wasn't that's not a peer. That's somebody coming in and saying, "Don't do what I did." I
Yeah.
mean, and as a parent, I personally know that doesn't work for my kids. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
don't do what
Exactly,
I
yeah.
did. Oh,
How
just
many
kidding.
times as a parent are you like, "You better mention that or you're gonna get in trouble," and you're like, "Okay, yes."
Right.
Sometimes it
Yeah.
works, but not very often.
So looking back, is there anything that kind of spurred your want to go into recovery or that process of recovery?
I mean, just a sense of desperation, you know? I mean, there are some choices you can make and some things that you can do that can get you to a point in your life where you don't see a way out.
Yeah.
Um, and you can run from that sense of feeling lost or trapped or that hopelessness. But you can only run for so long. I just got to a certain point where I couldn't do that,
Yeah.
you know, and I wasn't crazy out running the streets doing wild stuff, you know. I was mostly tame, and what got me into my situation was um not like stories, right? But
Right.
it was enough, right?
Yeah.
um but seeing how it affected my family and the fact that, you know, my family, after I got sentenced, they were right there with me, you know. And the pain that I saw in them, seeing, you know, I watched my son grow up in a visiting room,
Yeah.
you know, and have my daughter's mom not want to have contact with me at all. So I didn't even get to talk to my daughter until after she was 18, really. Um, and so the pain of seeing how my actions affected them was a big thing. And to see that they still had hope for me even in those hopeless circumstances. I think, you know, those two things together, the desperation that I felt, but the fact that they were still willing to be there providing whatever support they could. You know, I
Yeah.
was as a teenager, you know, I had 2 kids before I was 19, and I never felt like I could actually be a father, because my relationship with my father was fraught. Um, and so to see that just being there was making a difference for me made me kinda realize that I didn't have to worry so much about whether or not I could be a father. I just had to be there.
Yeah.
And then to see how that's played out over time is pretty incredible experience. You know, I've got a good relationship with both of my children now, and they're both married. My son bought a house last year, um, and we have a great relationship. And that, you know, I want to say more than anything else, but my relationship with my wife is up there too, and my relationship with all my family. But those are my success stories more than anything else. Being able to spend time with them and be there for them for those big moments, and for them to know that even though I couldn't be there for most of their life, that I wanted to, and to accept any kind of love from me
Yeah.
is incredible. Given the circumstances, it's remarkable. They're great kids.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was gonna say it sounded like you had at least some people with a as a support network for you too, um, when you went in. Yeah, when you were in that situation. And I know that it's not always rare, but maybe you don't know until you get there that you have people that are willing to support you. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that in a lot of my friends' lives, you know, where they were running the streets doing whatever they were doing, feeling like they were totally on their own, and then they get into that situation and realize that, oh, there is some family members who still want to support you and were trying to support you all along, but you couldn't see it. You couldn't accept that from 'em.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that's powerful too to know that you know even if you're accepting like I messed up and somebody's there for you at that same time too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that support system's so important. Um, so with the
It
work
is.
that you do now, do you still have that a support system that you lean on?
Oh. It's hard because most of my support, or not most of my support system, but I guess the support system that had a context for me, you know, who had shared similar experiences with me, those guys, they're still inside, and some of them will
Yeah.
never get out. And so having that leave that behind and come out to a world that is mostly foreign, you know,
Yeah.
um, even though going home to family, that's a disorienting process, you know. Um, I do have some friends, mostly the ones who were on that committee with me and Helena that I can reach out to sometimes, and we can have good conversations together and be a good support for each other. We're trying to build that a little bit more than it has been because it's been a little sporadic. Um, but for the most part, when you get out of prison, they want you to leave all of that behind.
Yeah.
And in large part, those guys were responsible for me being able to find a better sense of myself and to really come to my senses.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it couldn't have happened without the support of my family, but at the same time, it couldn't happen without the support of my peers. So,
Are there any support services that you used when you were trying to reacclimate or anything that helped you?
yeah, I went through the pre-release here in Missoula, and that was I thought I didn't need it because I had family support.
Yeah.
I was like, "I just wanna go home. Why are you making me go to pre-release?" But in hindsight, as I was going through the process, really, I was glad for those kind of safeguards and that kind of support because they make sure that you do some things that just kinda make sense as you're going through that big of a transition. They want you to talk to a counselor at least 6 times. If you have addiction issues, they want you to go to AA or NA. They want you to see an addictions counselor if that's what you need. They want you to just address whatever your issues are, whatever they think is gonna put you at risk, they want you to address that head on. And then they, like, have safeguards as you become more, financially stable. So, I mean, that was a good thing for me to go through that kind of a transition, absolutely. Um, I went to some AA and or yeah, some AA, some NA meetings while I was going through there, but, for me, my journey has been more about recovering a sense of wellness than actually recovering from an addiction to a substance. And so while I can have conversations, and I hold a lot in common with people who are recovering from addiction to substances. My journey has uh, been, I guess, a little bit different than some of that because, like, I smoked a little bit of weed when I was in high school and just after that, but I didn't battle with some of the other substances that some people get drawn into, and I wasn't out long enough. I don't know if I would have if I was if I hadn't gone to prison, but, that wasn't the main driver of my host of issues,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like your mental health and wellness, like you were saying, is also really important. Just quality of life too. So trying to make sure that getting that point, it's pretty amazing that you're on that journey. And thank you for sharing.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Is there anything else that you'd want to share with us? Just about being in recovery or how people, um, people, you were saying people react in these different ways, but honestly, for me, people are people, and I've always said that. So I'm like, just treat people like you would treat yourself. Hopefully that's good way though,
Yeah, yeah,
with
for sure,
respect.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So is there anything other things you'd want to say to somebody who is meeting someone in recovery for the first time, or just in general to the community?
To me, it comes back to something that we had talked about earlier that, um, if you go into those kind of interactions, just being honest with yourself and being open and honest with the other person, I mean, that's the only way to really interact with people in general, right? I think when interacting with people, if you're honest, you have to attribute them better intentions than you sometimes want to, because most people are trying their best to do their best. And sometimes that might not look very good to you, but you don't always have a context for what is behind whatever somebody is going through at any point in time. I have had a great response from a number of people at work who have known about my circumstance before I knew that they knew, and
Yeah.
then and got a chance to come to terms with that themselves. And then later on, I find out that they know, oh, we have conversations about that, and it has changed for the better how they interact with me. And so that kind of understanding that you can have from just having honest interactions with people is revolutionary, really.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Like have just ask the question. Be respectful, but ask the question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And,
Great.
there are some people that are reserved. For me, there's not really any questions that I feel like are off limits. And so you'll get a certain type of response from me. Some people might feel like, especially if they feel like you're judging them, I think that's the only time that people are generally closed off. If you can ask questions and interact with people in a way that truly is non-judgmental, then it totally changes everything about how you interact with people. Yeah.
Yeah, so just people being open to learning about someone else's experience. Yeah, I'm always about, don't knock someone for their small victories too, because it could be big for them, but it might seem small, but it's big.
Right.
And I feel like that comes from my neurodivergence, but
Yeah.
just sometimes my brain needs to celebrate all the small things. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you gotta remind yourself that it's okay and even necessary to celebrate those things sometimes because you get a habit, such a habit of judging yourself, according to other people's standards. And if that, I mean, that's bullshit, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you can go through your life doing that, and there's no reason for it. It just sets you up, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's all about for me, it's about the humanizing. It's everyone's human, everyone people. Just recognizing, like you said, just come talk to you. And some people might not be comfortable with that, but ask the question. And if they say no, just respect their no. Yeah, that's my take on that. So,
Yeah, I think it's so hard a lot of times to deal with other people on their own terms. I mean, it's not hard for me because that's like now my default mode, but a lot of people struggle with that, and it's weird because I didn't think that that was going to be the issue when I was growing up. You know,
yeah,
that most people would have such a difficult time just accepting people on their own terms and dealing with them, or not dealing with them, but interacting with them in
yeah,
a way that reflects that.
yes, I know. That's definitely hard for people. Like just saying accept the no, I know that's hard for a lot of people to accept the no. So, um, uh, yeah, but I'm hoping this is gonna be an impactful thing to share with, the community and just everyone at large, and knowing all the good stuff like you're doing with the group that you're in and introducing rap and how impactful those things can be, just that human interaction and that peer to peer just talking it out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and there shouldn't be any shame or stigma or, like, anything associated with that because our brains are complex, man, and just trying to talk it out, that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, and most
Yeah.
people live going through stuff,
Oh, yeah.
we all have stuff, right? And, there's no reason to, like, try to keep that hidden or yeah, to use the word stigmatize
Yep.
that. It's just the common human experience. If it's a common human experience, why do we gotta, like, try to sweep it under the rug or pretend like it isn't the fist or any of that?
Yep.
And so that's a big part of one of the big wins about us being able to take rap into the facilities and hopefully set up some peer mentoring is to if we can get the system to recognize that people in institutions can help each other and be a support for each other and to like formally accept that and have space hold space for that.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big win. And I think that that's possible. It's going to take a little bit more work, but I think it's possible, and I'm glad to be working on that. Yeah.
Well, I'm rooting for you. That sounds awesome. Yeah, like you said, you don't need to cut off your support network. Like you were saying, like those are impactful relationships too. So, all right. Well, thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Great to share. That's okay. No worries. All right. Well, have a great one.
All right. Yeah. You too.